Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to AI and Digital Accessibility, Risk versus Opportunity. My name is Dan Doggett with the Maryland Statewide IT Accessibility Initiative, and today we're here to discuss AI and digital accessibility. AI, or artificial intelligence, is very much obviously one of the most disruptive and rapidly evolving technologies. And so today, my goal is to sort of move past the hype that we've heard and give us a clear-eyed look at sort of both the opportunities and the risks associated with using it in digital accessibility. Before we dive in, here are a couple of quick housekeeping notes. First, we do have live captioning available for today's session, and you can enable them via the Zoom meeting controls toolbar. Also, today's webinar is being recorded and will be posted to our YouTube channel for future reference. We will send an email out to all registrants with the link for the video along with the slide deck for today's presentation as soon as we have those available. And lastly, please feel free to add your comments and questions in the chat or the Q&A. So before we get into the nuts and bolts of today's session, I want to sort of get a level set of where everyone is today. So if you wouldn't mind, please take a moment and share with the group if and how AI is being used within your organization. This could be specifically for accessibility or not. So if you would please just take 2 minutes now and provide your response in the chat box. Thank you. Okay, so we have someone who said, not yet. Okay, that's totally fine. All right, someone says, we're finding emails and assisting with presentations. Okay, great. Give everyone maybe 1 more minute and then we'll keep moving on. Okay, let's keep going. Thank you for that. Oh, someone says it's unclear if it's acceptable or not yet in their organization. Great, thank you for that. Okay, so thank you for sharing your input. It's great to hear that we sort of have a mixed use in this group. This is sort of what is expected. But one thing we can note is that it confirms that this technology is already here and people are starting to use it in their workspaces. So I wanted to start today with a level set of what AI actually is. And we've heard a lot of things, but it's not magic and it's not human thinking. It's a sophisticated mathematical engine for finding complex patterns. And this process always happens in 3 simple sequential steps, which are starting with the data, then finding a pattern, and then making a prediction on that pattern. So we're going to spend about a minute or so on each of these steps to sort of understand where the power and then also the problems come from with using AI. So let's dive into step 1, which is the data. This is the foundation of the entire AI system. So the definition is simple. It's the massive unstructured pool of information. Billions of documents, images, websites, and voice samples that we feed the model. The data pool is the complete set of source material that the AI draws from to build its initial mathematical understanding. Critically, the quality and completeness of this data directly determines the AI's ability to operate. So we need to think about what types of data are needed for supervised learning versus unsupervised learning. For our purpose, the main takeaway is that this data defines the entire system. And we'll come back to this concept later when we discuss the foundation of bias. So moving on to step 2 is the pattern. Once the data is fed in, the AI uses complex algorithms, often called neural networks, to analyze it. Think of AI as the world's most powerful but non-judgmental statistician. It doesn't understand the meaning of a dog or a document. It just finds mathematical connections and relationships. For example, if you fed it billions of text samples, the AI will find patterns in word proximity. So the AI's only goal is optimization. It's always looking to find the easiest statistical path. This focus on efficiency and correlation is crucial. And this is what we always must remember, is that AI is a statistician, not a philosopher. In other words, it lacks human context and ethical reasoning. And because of that, that's where sometimes the risks may emerge. And finally, we have step 3, which is the prediction. This is the outcome, the final action the AI takes when it encounters new data that it's never seen before. This is the point where the AI's success or failure in serving a customer or an employee becomes immediately visible. Is the auto-generated alt text accurate? Was the loan application approved or denied? The prediction is the product of the first 2 steps. So it is a statistical guess informed by the past. So therefore, our job as professionals is to make the prediction our primary control point. This is what we must audit, verify, and be ready to override with human judgment, which we'll discuss back when we talk about our action plan. So long story short, we've got our data, we've got our pattern, and then we have a prediction based on that. I see we have a comment in the chat here from Nancy. So I see we've been using Copilot to source speakers for specialized topics related to digital accessibility, such as remediation of sheet music and other concerns specific to music. Oh, very interesting, Nancy. I actually have a music background, so I'd be interested to hear more about that at some point. So thank you for sharing that. So here, this brings us, moving on, this brings us to our core challenge. And for all of our organizations, AI is not a hypothetical future. It's a tool that's already here. It's in our software. It's in our purchasing options. Our challenge is to ensure that it's a tool that accelerates our accessibility goals, not one that amplifies our existing societal biases. So this challenge is immediate and requires a pretty proactive strategy. So before we talk about organizations, it's critical to see AI as a tool for personal empowerment too. People with disabilities aren't waiting. They're actively co-opting mainstream AI to solve real-world problems, and we're going to take a look at some of those examples now. So one of the first examples, and a big one that we're seeing, is with AI-powered smart glasses. So a user who is blind or low vision can use smart glasses like Meta Ray-Bans to get real-time visual information. They can ask, what's on this menu? Or what's the street sign ahead? And the AI will use the camera to describe what it sees. So this provides hands-free, on-demand visual information, which is huge when it comes to independence and environmental awareness. It also highlights that this is a mainstream tech that is being adopted as powerful assistive technology. So Meta Ray-Bans were not developed specifically with blind and low vision users in mind, but they have adopted this tech to use for themselves. Not only is this a huge leap with assistive technology, it's also something that helps really reduce stigma in the AT community. So the same applies to communication. Many of us now take live captioning on Zoom or Google Meet for granted, but this AI tool is what makes virtual meetings accessible for people who are deaf or hard of hearing. The next frontier is with atypical speech recognition. So for years, voice assistants have struggled with anyone who doesn't have what's considered standard speech. Now, new models are being trained on a diverse range of vocal patterns. So this allows people with speech disabilities, whether it's cerebral palsy, a stutter, or things like that, to use voice commands to be understood. So this creates direct real-time access to conversations and digital services that may have not have been accessible in the past. And then another tool that a lot of people are probably already aware of are these AI smart homes, smart home devices like Alexa or Google Assistant. For a person with a significant mobility impairment, the ability to control their environment with just their voice, to turn on lights, adjust the heat, or unlock the door, it's now become a profound gain in independence. I am old enough to still remember the days when we would have the commercials for the clapper, which was a tool that you could hook your lights up in your living room to that would you could turn on your lights or turn off your lights by clapping your hands. So we've gone leaps and bounds above that with this. So with other disabilities, though, an AI routine can also provide automated medication reminders for someone with a cognitive disability, or smart light systems can flash when a doorbell rings for a deaf user. There's no limit to a lot of to what you could do with these devices, and new functionality is being developed every day. So, seeing how individuals are using AI, how can we as organizations use similar technology to meet our compliance goals and help our customers more equitably? So this empowerment continues directly into education in the workspace. For students with learning disabilities like dyslexia or ADHD, AI-driven software is transformative. It can adapt a lesson in real time, formatting text to be more readable, or even breaking down complex projects into smaller, manageable steps. In the workplace, AI tools are becoming powerful equalizers as well. So think of an employee with a cognitive disability or maybe brain fog can use AI to instantly summarize a 2-hour meeting they missed, or convert a complex jargon-filled memo into plain language action lists. So AI assistants help employees organize their thoughts and draft clear emails. I know someone was already talking about using it to help writing emails. So these tools allow people, what's important is that these tools allow people to focus on their actual work and skills, and it removes some of that administrative friction that can hold folks back. So seeing how individuals are using AI, how can we as organizations use similar technology to meet our compliance goals and serve our customers more equitably? One of the most exciting breakthroughs that we've been seeing in the state of Maryland are in terms of cognitive accessibility. Here at the state, we are really working on our plain language initiative, making sure that all of our government documentation and communication is in language that anyone can read and understand. And there are now plain language conversion tools that can analyze dense expert level text and provide a much simpler or cleaner version. So for anyone who has done our accessibility courses in the past and remembers the WCAG success criterions, this refers specifically to 3.1.5, which is the reading level, and is part of the broader understandable principle in WCAG. So this makes our services truly accessible to audiences with cognitive disabilities, low levels of literacy, or for folks who are non-native English speakers. Also, when you convert your text to plain language, it also makes it much easier to translate that information as well. So this is a massive compliance accelerator. And of course, AI is a force multiplier for remediation. Right now, many state and local governments are rushing to meet the compliance deadline for the new ADA Title II rulemaking. I know certainly we are here at the state of Maryland, and many of us are facing remediation goals with thousands of untagged legacy PDFs. I'm sure Most people on this call today have an understanding of what that is like. Well, AI can now scan those documents and provide things like proper tags for headings, lists, and tables, and make them more perceivable to screen readers. At the same time, AI auditing tools can scan entire web presences and give you a prioritized list of failures and things to fix, allow you to focus on your limited resources where they matter most. So we're seeing new tools like AI code assistants that sort of act as accessibility guardrails for developers. They'll do things like flagging missing ARIA roles or input labels in real time so that there's no need to go back and fix websites. It's built in as the people are developing it. So now I will say there are some obvious caveats and limitations to these programs. We're definitely going to get to those next, though. So now we need to address the other side of the coin. And if AI is used irresponsibly, if we set it and forget it, it becomes a significant source of liability, and more importantly, it discriminates. So let's talk a little bit more about how that happens. So now that we've sort of removed the noise and focused on the neutral facts about how AI learns, which remember that's starting with the data, the pattern, and the prediction, we need to apply the critical lens here. Where does bias actually enter the equation? The real world reflects centuries of societal bias against marginal groups, including people with disabilities. If the model that we are using in AI is trained on this reality, it will inherit that prejudice. So we can categorize this risk into three types that sort of lead to discrimination. The first is exclusion bias. So if the model is trained primarily on text and images that exclude people with disabilities, it learns that exclusion is the default. So this is probably the most important takeaway. If a user group is not adequately represented, the AI will be fundamentally incapable of serving them equitably. Next is harmful representation bias. So if the data only shows disability in negative or stereotypical contexts, like hospitals or in inspirational poses, the AI internalizes and replicates those harmful stereotypes. And finally, we have algorithmic shortcut bias. Now, if we remember from step 2 of the process of AI, the AI will always find the easiest statistical path. And if that path is prejudiced, the system will reinforce that bias simply because it's the most efficient correlation it learned. So the AI lacks the human context or ethical reasoning to reject this. So this is the most critical risk for any organization in a high stakes field. Let's say a bank or a healthcare provider uses an AI to determine eligibility for a loan or a service. The AI is trained on historical data. So it might learn a pattern that people from certain postal codes or those with data markers associated with disability might be considered high risk or high cost. The model will then automatically flag or deny their applications. This isn't a bug, it's algorithmic discrimination and is a massive systematic violation of non-discrimination laws. So this is the prediction, remember step 3, outputting the bias that it learned in the previous steps. And this bias doesn't just apply to high stakes decisions either. It also applies to creativity and representation. So right now, already, many of our marketing or web teams are using generative AI to create images or videos for websites and social media. But these tools are trained on the internet, which, as we know, reflects a long history of bias. So first, there's exclusion by default. If you type in a prompt like, if you want to create an image and you type a prompt like a team of professionals in a meeting, or a busy park and playground, the AI will almost never, by default, include a person with a visible disability. They're simply erased from the picture, which reinforces the harmful idea that they're not part of the public or professional spaces. I've tested this myself. Second, it gets worse. If you specifically ask for a person with a disability, the AI often defaults to, harmful stereotypes. It will show a person looking sad in a hospital or provide an inspirational pose rather than just a person living their normal life. A parent, an engineer, a customer, a professional. Finally, the AI often gets it wrong and provides inaccurate depictions of assistive devices. I have tried getting different tools to provide me generative images of cochlear implants, of wheelchairs, of users using screen readers on their computers, and you'll end up with some very wacky or futuristic looking things. It's important to remember this because when our organizations use these images without thinking, we risk perpetuating the very exclusion and stereotypes we're trying to fight. So this bias also appears in our own internal processes as well as organizations. So many HR departments are now using AI to pre-screen candidates. And so what happens when a highly qualified candidate with a disability, maybe a facial difference, a tic, someone who's autistic and doesn't make normal eye contact, is interviewed by this AI. The system, trained on a narrow definition of confidence or fit, penalizes them. It's a high-tech version of an inaccessible prejudice interview. So this brings us back to the organizational accelerator that we discussed, which is automated remediation. And I said we would come back to this. So because while AI is extremely good at fixing technical compliance issues like missing alt text or bad color contrast, we need to be clear about something. AI cannot replace human context in user testing. The AI is great at solving math problems, but it fundamentally cannot interpret intent. So it can't determine if a heading structure in your document or your website is logical, can't make sense of, if it can provide alt text for an image. So if it, let's say the alt text is a person standing by, a door, and that might technically be accurate, but only a human can tell if that image is purely decorative or if it's acting as a link to another website, things like that. So this contextual intent can't be coded by AI. So, keep in mind at all times, true remediation is not complete until it's verified by humans. So as we noted earlier, the prediction is what we must audit, verify, and override with human judgment. So this is why we always, need to explore these tools, but also budget for expert human review and user testing, even with the best AI tools. And I spent a long time at if anyone was at M-Enabling, the Digital Accessibility Conference last month, there were a ton of vendors who were, hawking new AI remediation tools. Not a single one said that their tools could stand up without, human verification. So something to always keep in mind with this. And finally, we need to be aware of the false fix. You've probably seen ads for widgets that promise one-click ADA compliance or overlays that produce 100% compliance. Long story short, they don't work. These often break screen readers or give a false sense of security. And this leads to vendor risk. But remember, under Title II law, you cannot contract away your responsibility. So if you buy an inaccessible AI chatbot or overlay from a vendor, your organization is the one that's liable. So keep that in mind. So what do we do? We obviously can't ban AI. So we have to manage it. We have to create a plan based on due diligence. So let's go through sort of what we need to do for that. So I have basically three important actions that we should do when it comes to utilizing AI. And the first is the cornerstone of responsible AI adoption, and that's human oversight. I cannot stress enough how important human oversight is. It has to be mandatory with any adoption of AI. The easiest way to get into legal or ethical trouble is to treat AI as a pilot. If anything, it's a co-pilot. So it's a tool to augment, not replace human expertise. For low stakes content, like generating alt text or memo summaries, you could implement like a tier 1 human review process. So this means the output is treated as a draft that needs expert verification for context, tone, and accuracy before publication. For things like high stakes decision, so that's anything that may impact a person's civil rights, livelihood, or health, like hiring, loan approvals, or benefits eligibility. A human in the loop is legally and ethically required. So the human must not just rubber stamp the decision. They need to be empowered to review the data inputs, understand AI's rationale, and ultimately override the prediction if it appears biased or discriminatory. So the prediction is what you audit. And the next action, action 2, is to vet your vendors. Remember, when we talked about the vendor liability, you can't contract away your responsibility under laws like the ADA. If your vendor's product discriminates, your organization is liable. So therefore, it's extremely important to vet your vendors. So the primary mechanism for this is demanding an accessibility conformance report, or an ACR. This report typically is structured using what's called the Voluntary Product Accessibility Template, or VPAT. And we actually have some webinars based on this that I'll provide recordings to as well that get into more detail here. But basically, it requires the vendors to detail exactly how the AI product meets, or more importantly, fails to meet WCAG criteria. So when you have your vendors provide this document, don't just collect it and put it away. You want to audit it. So you want to look specifically for where the vendor marks does not support or partially supports. If the core functionality of their AI tool breaks things like screen readers, that's a red flag. Or if it's not fully keyboard functional, another big red flag. So finally, ensure that compliance is contractual. So if they promise to fix an issue, that fix needs to be documented with a clear deadline in a contract. And then action 3, provide a human fallback. Our final action here is, means that, no matter what, no customer should ever be forced into a digital or AI-only channel if they are either unable to or unwilling to use it. We know AI can struggle with things like atypical speech patterns, or fails to interpret contextual needs. If a user cannot successfully complete a task with your AI chatbot or automated system, there needs to be a clear, accessible non-AI path. So this can be a prominently displayed phone number, a specialized email address, or an option for even an in-person service. This is about equitable access. So by guaranteeing a human channel, you serve those with complex access needs. So those with specific assistive technology might conflict with the AI, and those who simply do not trust the technology, you want to be able to provide them, another means to your services. Okay, so this concludes the formal presentation today. I know I threw a lot at you all, and I'm sure you'll want to process this. Again, I want to say that I will be providing these slides for you all once we are done with the recording. I'll be sending that out. But I did want to take some time now to open up for some questions or comments. So let me take a look if we have anything in the Q&A. Okay, so I don't see any questions in the Q&A. Anything in the chat? If anyone has any questions or anything else that folks want to go over. Okay, well, I'm not seeing anything in the chat here, so that's great. All right, well, I want to thank everyone for joining us for today's session. I know we're finishing a little early today, but again, I will be sending out the recording and the slides as soon as we have those available for you all via email. And I'll also also provide the webinar recording of our VPAT and ACR session for more information. So want to thank you all, and enjoy the rest of your November, and we'll see you all next time. So thank you.